Moral Orel ran for 3 seasons, to 2005 to 2008. The show is well known for how it treats Christianity, but also how it does its depressing themes. The show sadly got cancelled by Adult Swim before it could even go on to its next 3 seasons. But, in order for me to talk about the show, I have to talk about the first season. To be honest, the first season of Moral Orel doesn't have much to it. It basically goes through the same thing. Orel goes to church, he misunderstands Reverend Putty, he does something stupid, he gets in trouble for it. Clay gets wind of this, he sends him to his study, he gets a whooping from his dad, and Clay teaches Orel a lesson, and that's how the episode pretty much ends. That's how the first 9 episodes of season 1 pretty much goes. But that all changes in episode 10, the best Christmas ever. The episode starts with the family going to church on Christmas Eve, and of course Reverend Putty talking about Jesus and his birthday on Christmas. After that, Orel asks about the second coming of Jesus. Reverend says that the second coming of Jesus might be nearby. After that, we see the family decorating the Christmas tree, and of course them going to bed. After that, we get a little hint of how dark the series is going to be. Roberta goes to Clay and tells him that Reverend Putty probably knows that Clay never wanted Shapey. That means that Clay already knows that Shapey is not actually his son. Orel tries to go to his parents' bedroom to ask them a question until he hears that Clay talks about Shapey about just coming out of nowhere, and that means to Orel that Shapey is the second coming of Jesus. Clay and Roberta still argue about Shapey. Roberta wants a divorce so that she can get away from Clay. Clay decides to leave the house so that they can be alone on Christmas, but also that he doesn't have to deal with Roberta. On Christmas morning, Roberta is just left alone in the bedroom, just depressed and feeling nothing but the sounds of silence. And all we see is tears coming out of her eyes. Once it's Christmas morning, Orel decides to at least hang out with his baby brother since he thinks that he's the second coming of Jesus. Then they destroy props from the church of the baby Jesus. Roberta comes because Reverend Putty calls her. She tells Orel that her and Clay are going to get a divorce. She decides to just leave Orel on his own so that he can be with his father. Then he sees his father at the beer bar for Getty's with Danielle, who we will talk about in a little bit. And then after that, Orel decides to pray to God and hopefully make it the best Christmas ever. Hope is a very important word in the show, and I'll explain why once we get to Season 3. Season 2 picks up where Episode 10 left off, where of course Clay and Roberta are still married and are not going to get a divorce because of the kids. Season 2 focuses more on Moralton and the people who live in it, including Danielle, who is of course a love interest for Clay. Yes, Clay is bisexual. Not only that, but Danielle is the real father of Shapey, and Roberta kind of had a crush on him in high school. Season 2 stands out once you get to the last 2 episodes, Nature, which are both two-parters. Clay wants to do a father and son camping trip with Orel, but once they get there, Clay gets very drunk, and whenever Orel does not want to hunt or at least shoot an animal, he starts drinking to show off that Orel fails in his eyes. And the more he drinks, the more that Orel starts to see the true person that Clay really is, an abusive alcoholic who only cares about himself and no one else. He drinks just so he can feel something, and he very much hates himself. This is finally the first time that Clay becomes the villain of the entire show. Someone who used to be a father figure, someone that Orel would always see as someone that he can rely on, is now his worst enemy. The more Clay drinks, the more angrier and furious Clay starts to get. He rumbles about everything wrong about him, and it starts to make Orel scared, uncomfortable, and overall, it just shows to Orel how broken Clay really is as a person. But things get so much worse once Clay gets his rifle.
Don't butt me!
Dad,
Orel, what have you done?
I got shot by you.
Clay could care less about Orel getting shot. In fact, he actually drinks the alcohol bottle that he was supposed to put on Orel's leg. Orel finally tells his father that he truly hates him, but Clay doesn't care because he's drunk. And then a bear shows up, and of course, Orel is terrified, but he's not scared anymore. He decides to kill the bear to wipe off the fear and pain, the anger on the bear. After Clay wakes up, Orel is tired and bleeding, and Clay does not remember a single thing that happened. So, of course, Clay finds out that the bear is shot. He wants Orel to tell him that Orel actually killed the bear, but Orel is too angry and he decides to lie that Clay actually killed the bear. Orel finally returns home and is being taken care of by his mother. Orel finally asks Roberta as to why she even married Clay, and her response is, why not? Season 3 is the most depressing season in the entire show. Not only that, but it's also the final, last season of the show. Everything just goes down. Everybody feels hopeless. But before I really get to that, I need to talk about the flashbacks that happened in the third season, explaining why Clay is the way he is. The first one is about how Clay met Roberta and how the marriage was very much forced. I mean, without Roberta, Clay would have never gotten into alcohol. And, well, when they got married, that was it for Clay. Life was pretty much over for him. And that's when life just went downhill. The other one deals with Clay's relationship with his father after the death of his mother due to a heart attack. It was very abusive and just goes to show that his father also did not love Clay whatsoever. Clay is such a complex villain where it's very easy to hate on him, but at the same time, you feel bad for him when it comes to what he had to deal with in his past. It's already been 6 months ever since Clay shot Orel in the leg during the camping trip, and Orel does not care about Clay anymore. He's not afraid of Clay. He could care less about anything that happens to his own father. Clay at this point is trying to win over the election of being the mayor over Miss Sensudoll, and yes, this is the first time that the show shows us that he is the mayor of Moralton. It's made very clear to us that Clay very much hates Orel, and Orel could care less. During the election between Clay and Miss Sensudoll, Clay does not know what Miss Sensudoll has plans when it comes to her being the mayor. Clay tries to talk to Orel and apologize for even shooting him and for being a terrible father. But at this point, it's too late. Orel could care less about Clay becoming the mayor. Then Clay finally tells Orel that he's glad that he shot him in the leg, showing that Clay never loved Orel. Clay is the monster, the demon of Moralton, and it's scary and sad as to how he even became the mayor of the entire town. And because of that, everyone just feels nothing but hopeless after everything that happens throughout the entire town, including Orel himself. Maybe, just maybe, there could be a little bit of hope. Maybe there could be a little bit of honor for Clay. The final episode of Season 3 and the show itself, Honor. The episode begins with Danielle finally finding out the kind of person that Clay truly is, with Clay kissing Miss Sensudoll. Danielle runs out of the bar, he vomits, and he starts to hate Clay. After that, he meets with Orel, seeing how sad he is when it comes to his face and not being as jolly as he always has been. So, of course, Orel asks if there is anything honorable about Clay, and Danielle offers to actually hang out with him throughout the Christmas season. Then Danielle gets a call from Clay. Of course, he's very upset at Clay and does not care about talking to him. After that, we see Danielle hanging out with Orel and being a better father figure than Clay ever was to Orel. While Orel and Danielle have fun, Clay decides to stalk Danielle and Orel. Of course, he gets jealous, so he decides to get out his family to trick them into thinking that they're gonna go Christmas caroling. It isn't long until Orel finds out that Danielle really likes Clay, or at least he used to. And of course, Orel still thinks that there's nothing honorable about his own father. But despite everything, Danielle still tells him that the most honorable part about Clay is that Clay was able to make Orel. And Clay arrives to Danielle's apartment and tries to look like if he's trying to argue with him. But then he tries to tell Danielle that he actually loves him. But then Orel tells Clay that it's too late. Clay does not listen. Then he steps on the picture of both him and Danielle. And Danielle finally tells him that it's too late. Clay returns home feeling sad and defeated. After that, we fast forward in time to see Orel as an adult, showing us that he is now a father with a happy family, to show us that a happy Christian family is possible if only you have love and hope. Moral Orel is not about making fun of Christianity. It's about the beauty of life and believing. Orel is that hope. Orel represents that hope that we all need into believing ourselves with God. Moral Orel truly was ahead of its time, not only for telling its interesting dark stories, but also using stop motion and showing us that adult animation can definitely tell interesting stories no matter what kind of animation is being used. At the time, adult cartoons were just comedy, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it goes to show that you can do so much more with adult animation. Orel deserves so much better, but sadly, Adult Swim canceled the show for its dark subjects that it goes through, which is understandable, but I definitely give Moral Orel a lot of credit for going through those dark subjects. It really does show that the writers truly cared about the show. As for score-wise, the show gets an 8.5 out of 10, and it definitely deserves that score. If you have not seen Moral Orel, please go watch it. And if you have, please form your own opinion, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.